this nation, of the good people and this great nation, Nigeria. In as much as about the public good, this is where the conversation happens. Thank you for joining us once again. Femi Ojo remains my name. As I'll always say, I am a Nigerian. So Nigeria, it's our business. It must flourish within our time and beyond our time as well. Morning Spring is this program. WSTV is the channel. Once again, Femi Ojo is my name. Of course, Daniel is here. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
The man is sky blue. The sky blue, I'm not sure. Okay, is that of the Man City? Or, okay, I think only Man City wears sky blue. The other blues, Chelsea and the rest of them, Yeah. But it's good to have you. Good morning.
Good morning.
How do you do?
I'm cool.
It looks like you had a well-rested night.
Yeah, it's a cold Wednesday morning. It's a cold Wednesday morning in this part of the world, Right. I always prefer it cool. Sometimes the heat gets excessive, but when it's cool, I mean, even if you don't sleep that much, I mean, 3-4 hours sleep and you just feel as if you've slept for a whole lot more. So it's kind of cool this morning, Wednesday morning, and it's beautiful to be a Nigerian. Great to be a Nigerian. Always proud to be a Nigerian. Emeka Daniel is my name. Thank you once again for joining us this morning on Morning Spring. This is Western Spring Television, and this is what we do every day from Monday to Friday. You don't want to miss any segment of the show. We start with the newspaper review, then of course we go into issues that concern us as a people, and that's what we do here from Mondays to Friday. Don't forget, we are streaming live on YouTube, so you can always be part of this conversation, and also on StarTimes Channel 190 DTT. You don't want to miss any part of the show today. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy as we bring you the best as usual. And Femi, of course, a lot has always been happening in the nation. We always have a lot to talk about.
Exactly.
Yesterday we talked about the Pope, the passing of the Pope, and of course, Catholics around the world are mourning the passing of the Pope. I understand there's a Nigerian cardinal who's actually qualified to be part of the conclave to take part in the election. One Cardinal Ebere, I forgot the last name.
I hope you don't want to say
Ebere. He's 62 years old.
I hope you don't want to say
Okpebolo. No, that's exactly. I don't want to say Okpebolo because Okpebolo is
say when as the governor of Edo State being
or something like that. He's only
right.
Ebere. So he's 62 years old, so he's qualified to be part of the election to elect a new pope. And some people are actually saying
high-ranking cardinals.
Absolutely.
Actually, we used to have Cardinal Rinze, when it was time to appoint. I think it was during Pope Benedict's time. He retired before Pope Francis came on board.
Absolutely.
But now he's older than the age. I think anybody that will be a cardinal now should be less than 80. So we heard. But then, as they said, the clergy we spoke with yesterday say the supreme thing is God will choose. The preference depends on people. Possibly, I wouldn't know if it would be a good thing, just like clergy said, that a black man will emerge as a pope. But when that will happen, we don't know. Because it has to be by election. It's a spiritual exercise. It's by election. But then, what is the volume of the black people that are in,
that was my point exactly.
That will be in the voting pool. But then, it's all the best. Beyond that, let the will of God be done.
Absolutely. The will of God be done. And, sometimes when the Spirit of God is ministering to the hearts of, some folks of other races for you to vote a black man, and some might silence that spirit because we cannot rule it out. That's the absolute truth. That's the fact. Right. There is still discrimination, whether we like it or not. There is still discrimination.
Well,
everywhere.
So that we don't sound categorical, we don't know if that
there was this incident.
At the Vatican.
Yes, there was this incident. The Pope was, greeting some people. I mean, some cardinals. I'm trying to remember the exact time it happened. It was greeting some cardinals, and among them was a black cardinal, and he was conspicuously left out. And people said, "Why? Why?" No, that might not be a big deal. So it was just
at times
exactly,
as well, and perspective matters. But for the point that this Pope Francis that has passed on, many people knew him to be you know, can be anything, but not somebody who is given to social preference or tribal preference, or it was somebody, and that's part of his a legacy, that is somebody who transcends any other thing. What many persons will even call status, it doesn't do that. The exalted office, it doesn't even use some of the perks of office, so to speak. But then we're allowed to make mistakes as human beings, but so that with us, I don't think it was intentional. And that's why I said angles can be matter. Even the camera angle can matter, and somebody can give a narrative to suit a particular purpose because it needs a message to be out. But then it's the prerogative of Vatican. But talking about a black man emerging as a pope, nobody, as at the time it happened, thought a black man could be American president. It happened. If it will happen, it will happen.
So there is nothing God cannot do. Yeah,
well,
that's true. So we would really like to see a black pope.
It would be a preference. The clergy said it. You love to see somebody of your color being, you know, the vicar of Christ, the leader of the church, more than 1.something billion people.
Yeah, more than 1.3 billion.
Worshippers of, you know, but we wish them all the best as well. Not just at the Vatican, not just at the Pope. Nigerians emerging as leaders in every spheres of life. We are great people. When our people go for global things, they shine.
Absolutely.
Tunde Onokoye has just been confirmed as a world champion, somebody who has played the longest hour and won consecutively. Actually, the chess master, he has done it in Nigeria, beaten almost everybody that he has faced. He went to New York at the Times Square and he played for consecutive 3 days or thereabout, playing chess, and he won. And just a few days ago, he was certified by the Guinness Book of Records, World Records, to say you are the champion of the person who has played the longest and beaten everybody.
That's impressive. Congratulations.
Really, congratulations are pouring in it, and the guy's just 30, actually. And not just, he has a project called Slum in Africa, where he's using chess to bring out children from every slums, actually, and making them, you know, to have education. And it's a beautiful thing that he's doing. That's just one of many. And there are many Tunde Onokoyas that are doing great things that possibly the light hasn't shown on. And this is using, encouraging them to say, please go ahead and do what you do. Keep showing up. Be persistent. Every day, one day, the world will hear your story, you know, just like we are doing right now. We're going to do great things. And the guy's mantra is, you can do great things from a small place. So keep showing up. It has been a cool night and cold morning. Keep showing up.
Absolutely.
You can't, because of that, say you would. Farmers right now will be happy. They will be on their way to the farm because it rained yesterday. We'll go on this quick break. When we return, the program will continue. It's Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Stay with us. Right, trusting in what the Daily Trust has for us, we kickstart the headline segment from the Daily Trust. Earlier, NSA differ over Benue killings. Earlier, NSA differ over Benue killings. We learned the NSA visited Benue yesterday. As death toll rises to 83 in 5 days. Just in Benue.
Absolutely. This is quite worrisome. I read the transcript of an interview that Governor Hyacinth earlier granted to some news reporters. And he is claiming that those killings, that the root cause, that let's look at the root cause of the killings here. So he's blaming the 1999 ECOWAS protocol on trans-border grazing for this problem. He said most of these guys are mercenaries, that when you see them, that of course some eyewitnesses saw them, they recognize them, that these are not part of us, these are not one of us, okay? That most of these guys are mercenaries, that the government, the federal government should revisit the 1999 ECOWAS protocol on cross-border grazing, that it has left room for a lot of, people to come in from other places. Exactly. And I mean, cause mayhem, kill people, destroy property.
So they can just troop in.
Absolutely.
Under, the guys of being herders.
Yeah, they just came to graze. And their real motive is land grabbing. He said that's it. He said
I think everybody has got to agree right now that it's not just farmer herders crisis. Absolutely. It's intentional. And so that we don't blow it out of proportion, it's a terrible thing. and 83, you know, and one thing is this, when you report 83, those are the bodies found. There are some bodies that will never be found.
Absolutely.
There are some persons who had cuts or injuries and they try to escape, they'll go and die somewhere in the bush, and you might never see their bodies. 83 in a state,
Quite worrisome.
like 120 in another state, and everybody is okay. The president came back, the normal protocol was given, handshake, 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 and he's back. And the NSA has visited, some governors visited last week, politicians will visit, people are expecting the president, maybe he will visit again, and what happened?
No, his friends are telling him, you are doing well, Mr. President. That's what his friends are telling him. And I said it here, it's quite unfortunate when you have, sycophants, but we shouldn't play politics with the lives of innocent citizens
like
here.
that, sadly. That's always been like that. People will always, Rankadede, Baba, Sugarban, Megida, you are doing well. And these are some of the issues. But then I don't see us as a serious people. You know why? Either the president, the governors, all of us, we here, although we get to talk about the issue, is 83 dying in a place, lives. What's it? Like cumulatively 100 or 120 in Plateau.
State, yeah.
In less than 2 weeks, more than 240 something was reported in a daily, 248 was reported in a daily yesterday, cumulatively from this state, and we are fine.
And
all we are given is speech.
Yeah, unfortunately, and the National Security Advisor is busy, defending the security agencies. Let us face the facts here. We should be ashamed of ourselves. Why would the NSA be defending the security agencies? If they are failed, they are failed. Let's call a spade a spade.
Well, what will you have to say?
Nuhur coming out as National Security Advisor to defend the efforts of security agents. It is black and white. It is clear. When these guys are failed, and I keep saying it, if you have failed, you are failed. If military intelligence has failed, it has failed. Let us own up to our failures.
Do you know sometimes the leadership, of course, that's what we are talking about this morning. The fellowship themselves were people who condone all kind of nonsense thrown at us. I'm not even particular about the leaders now. You will still see some persons, because on tribal and majorly political affiliations, telling you, is the problem new? I've had people say, is it new?
Imagine.
It has always been like that. Is it Tinubu that will carry on? So
we should get used to it.
Are we not getting used to it, Daniel? Are we not getting? 83 people dying. And sometimes you get to know it because the social status of these persons. When some individuals, I don't want to mention him so that it won't be twisted, some business guru, one or two, we lost quite a few in the last 1 year. When he died, when some of those persons died, you saw the tribute, you saw, you know what I'm talking about, so that I don't give a name to it. And some of big politicians, everybody, and they didn't die by gun. They didn't die by attacks. Yeah. They died possibly due to natural occurrence or disaster or something. You will see, but because those persons are faceless, so to say, we have made them to be faceless. But knowing, we have forgotten that no life is superior to another.
We're all equal.
If this particular thing, and I'm sorry to say this, but then I'm not sorry, had happened to a governor's son, an entire household wiped out, or a minister's wife or mother or something, I'm not wishing them bad. I know, I think people who are saying, know what I'm saying, just like our viewers right now. If it happened to the high ranking, the conversation
will be different.
But then the sad thing is this, the problem is coming too close to home right now. In fact, his home. A general was kidnapped for 59 days or thereabout. He took his colleagues to crowdfund for him. Who are we? You know what the military say? Bloody civilians. A general was kidnapped, and that is where we have found ourselves right now. And it's now the governor, earlier is, not sharing the position of the NSA on this matter. Our guest yesterday, retired general that we spoke with, said it's high time people protect themselves. But he agrees that people should carry weapons, but it should be supervised. I mean, that was on Monday, right? Yeah, absolutely. It should be supervised by the military because, you wouldn't expect a general to say, we have lost it. But everybody can read in between the lines. T.Y. Danjuma has always been saying this. But then there is a downside to that. But I'm not sure this is the right time for us to talk because for many Nigerians who are easily triggered, guns in the hands of some Nigerians, wouldn't that be counterproductive as well?
But again, Femi, people deserve, they reserve the right to protect themselves.
Yes,
I mean,
even as we have it.
I mean, if I'm in my house right now and someone is coming with a gun to kill me, I mean, I should be able to have a gun myself to protect myself. So I take you down before you take me down.
Even as it is right now, you can, but then you have to obtain a license for that, and you have to give a reason. Everybody has the right to. You approach the right sources, but I'm just saying, we are still battling with proliferation of small arms. Now imagine.
I think I'm going to need a shotgun.
Okay, whatever that is. Below that, you have a picture of, the remains of a particular village right now. Below that, 180 students occupy room of 20 at Kaduna College. 180 students occupy room of 20 at Kaduna College. All right. New terror group Mahmuda intensify attacks, and then there are indications again. There are reports that Mahmuda possibly might not be the name of a new terrorist group. That is the name of a leader of a faction of an existing terror groups. But whatever it is,
but they've been positioned as a new terrorist group.
Either they are a new terrorist group
or breakout from an existing one.
Or is the name of a breakout of a terrorist group. The thing is, they are terrorists and they are deadly. Absolutely. They should be wiped out.
Absolutely.
Experts disagree as IMF downgrades Nigeria's 2025 GDP forecast. Experts disagree as IMF downgrades Nigeria's 2025 GDP forecast. And curfew in Minna amid surge in thuggery and robberies. Curfew in Minna amid surge in thuggery and robberies. What's responsible for that? Possibly the Daily Trust might have a reason for that, the detail. That will be all from the Daily Trust.
From the Daily Trust, we move to the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Nigeria walks tightrope as IMF sees higher inflation, lower oil prices. You find that on page 6 of the Guardian. There's a major headline there. Nigeria walks a tightrope as IMF sees higher inflation, lower oil prices. Right there, in front of that page, you'll see that, we'll call it a bar chart now, of inflation rates from the International Monetary Fund, talking about the GDP growth projection for 2025 in percentage. And we see India right there with 6.2%, followed by China with 4.0%. Then we have Nigeria with 3.0%. We have US with 1.8%. We have Russia with 1.5%. Then we have RSA, that's Republic of South Africa, with 1.0%. Talking about GDP growth rate. Of course, I saw the report yesterday, the IMF report. Nigeria was downgraded by 0.2% to 3.0%. And some people are saying, some economic experts are disagreeing. But it's common sense. Nigeria, our economy is reliant on oil. Yeah. Oil prices have crashed globally. So what do you expect? So it's logical for them to downgrade. For them to downgrade our GDP growth rate. So it's quite logical. Even South Africa was actually downgraded by 0.5% compared to Nigeria's 0.2%. So I don't think there's any reason for economic experts to be raising eyebrows on that. Anyway, away from that, let's move to the top strip of the Guardian newspaper. Custom records 1.75 trillion naira revenue in first quarter in Q1 2025, exceeds targets by 106 billion naira. Customs records 1.75 trillion naira revenue in Q1 2025, exceeds targets by 106 billion naira. Quite an interesting one right there. Yesterday, the Nigerian Customs Services Controller General Bashir Adeni was given a report, and he said in the first quarter of 2025, they actually made collections of 1.75 trillion naira, which is quite impressive, exceeding their target by 106 billion naira. Quite impressive right there. We have Nigerian Customs Services giving a good report of themselves. On the other hand, we have the NNPC. I'll come back to that later. NNPCL, a group of people staged a protest yesterday. They went to the office of the Attorney General of the Federation and also the Minister of Justice, talking about Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, requesting for the prosecution of former NNPCL boss Mele Kyari. You know, he was removed by Tinubu. He was just removed. Nothing was done. The board was dissolved. It was removed and replaced by Bayo Julari. But these concerned groups concern Nigerian citizens against corruption. They are asking for the prosecution of the former NNPCL boss because a lot happened under him.
Well,
some money is unaccounted for.
Let them submit a petition.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, but here we have the Nigerian Customs doing
the thing
well.
Is nobody should bully anybody. Actually, if you think something untoward that happened under him, go through the right source, get a lawyer, petition him, possibly the Nigerian police or the FCC, and then he will have it in his court. And I think that's the right thing to do, actually. And nobody should be above the law. It's military
absolutely.
Or somebody from somewhere. And they held, starting with military, and every other person held that position in trust of the Nigerian people. So they must, even if it's 50 years from now, they must answer questions. But let it be done, because these days you get to see calumny, campaign of calumny all over the place, because somebody doesn't just like somebody, but then either it's military, just like I said, or it's former president. So that's one thing that we don't have here. At the moment you leave, people will say, please face your work. Let bygone be bygone. And so the bygones have been buying guns since 1960. Here we are. Right
absolutely. Quite unfortunate. Well, kudos to Nigerian Customs Services for doing a good job. And of course, I'd always say you can do more. If they can achieve this, then rest assured that it can actually do more. Right. Away from that, moving on to other stories on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Monarch backs African Pope as 9 stand to succeed Francis. Monarch backs African Pope as 9 stand to succeed Francis. That's talking about Pope Francis' successor right there. Away from that, poliomyelitis outbreak hits 9 states in Nigeria, says UNICEF. Poliomyelitis outbreak hits 9 states in Nigeria, says UNICEF. You'll find a story on page 30 of the Guardian newspaper. Moving on to other stories. Plateau MBA advocates self-defense against attacks. Plateau MBA advocates self-defense against attacks. You find a story on page 30 of the Guardian newspaper. Coalition urges National Assembly on bill to reserve seats for women in Parliament. Coalition urges National Assembly on bill to reserve seats for women in Parliament. Federal government targets $4 billion import reduction via proposed steel incentive bill. Federal government targets $4 billion import reduction via proposed steel incentive bill. You find a story on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper. Moving to the bottom strip now. Armed robbers kill 11 in fresh Benue attack as Ribadu defends federal government security efforts. Armed herders kill 11 in fresh Benue attack as Ribadu defends federal government's security efforts. That's talking about the National Security Advisor, Madam Nuhu Ribadu, defending the federal government's security efforts. And I'll keep saying it. I've said it before, and I'm saying it again. If our security agencies are failing, let us call a spade a spade. So, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu or Malam Nuhu Ribadu, you don't have to be sentimental about this. You don't have to take it personally. Security agencies are failing. That's the truth. A layman can see that. So stop defending their efforts and step up. Every Nigerian life matters, and that's what we are saying right here. Right. Away from that, Lagos recorded 517,394 traffic infractions in 1 year. Lagos recorded 517,394 traffic infractions in 1 year. You find that report on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. And finally, from the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning, PDP sacks Bayelsa Edo executives, appoints interim officials. PDP sacks Bayelsa Edo executives, appoints interim officials. You find a story on page 29 of the Guardian newspaper. And that'll be all from the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
All right, from the Guardian newspaper, we go to the Punch. The Punch for today. Phillips, IG deploys special anti-bandit squads nationwide. Phillips, IG deploys special anti-bandit squads nationwide. With a rider, bandits strike again, kill 18 in Kwara, Benue, northern governors talk tough. Talking, and talking. Again, bandits strike again, kill 18 in Kwara, Benue, northern governors talk tough. And sometimes you want to wonder the kind of audacity that those guys have to keep doing what they are doing. You know that, a conversation is on about a dastardly act that have been committed in a particular area. Government officials have been visiting. The military are saying, oh, we will empower the people or stay with them and, protect them. Yet, they keep coming back to keep doing the same thing. And you wonder, what kind of audacity? Well,
I do not blame them when we have people in charge, people in charge of security who are supposed to be checking their activities, and they are not.
Even preventing from happening.
So it beats my imagination for the NSA, the National Security Advisor, to come out and defend them. Why are you defending failure, for God's sake?
It's, the place looks more like a political office right now.
Why is he defending failure?
At the time we used to have retired generals, some persons say, okay, maybe we should give other persons who are not of military background a chance. And Uhuru Badu, was given a chance, was a former police officer, but a politician as well. And so possibly that is why we are here. And it should be something of shame, actually. It's more like that something bad has happened in the neighborhood and soldiers are saying, oh, we are here right now. And all of a sudden, the same thing still happens with the soldiers and everybody being there. And they keep coming back. And,
and they'll tell you we're on top of the situation.
I'm not sure they're on top of any situation right now. And below that, you have 18 Africans among cardinals to elect new pope. 18 Africans among cardinals to elect a new pope. And you have the remains of Pope Francis being displayed there in a coffin and a mass being held. The Papa has gone. Nigeria's rebased inflation to hit 37% in 2026. IMF, I'm sure many Nigerians don't want to hear whatever IMF and their postulations are, especially as regards our economy. And 8 banks spend 4.61 trillion on salaries and operations. 8 banks spend 4.61 trillion on salaries and operations. Page 23. And below that, we have Senate lambast Bakare over rubber stamp remark. Interesting. Senate lambast Bakare over rubber stamp remark.
Quite a rebound. Who are the Senates to lambast someone over, rubber stamp remarks?
Well, they have an image to protect.
They themselves, are they not a rubber stamp organization? I dare say the National Assembly, the Senate has become a rubber stamp organization. It's
Pastor Dunde Bakare that has said that. And so, for image, for ego, for the sanctity of the institution, they have to say something.
A rubber stamp is pointing out another rubber stamp.
All right. Stray bullet kills 16-year-old at Lagos anti-courtism work. Such a terrible irony. We're talking about anti-courtism work, and a stray bullet. He killed somebody. So where did he come from? The courtist that they are working against, or a accidental discharge? 16-year-old has died. It's terrible. And flight disruptions likely over NIMET worker strike. NIMET worker strike. And lastly, emergency rule. Fubara may shift ground after Tinubu's UK meeting. Emergency rule. Fubara may shift ground after Tinubu's UK meeting. Again, emergency rule. Fubara may shift ground after Tinubu's UK meeting. Nigerians and Riverians, the way they are called, are waiting. That will be all from the Punch.
And from the Punch newspaper, we move to the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. NSA in Benue says attacks tragic, evil. NSA in Benue says attacks tragic, evil. That's talking about the National Security Advisor.
Daniel, tell me what I don't know. I'm not sure you should be telling me.
The tracks are not tragic. We all know that.
Please go ahead.
We all know that. With riders, reiterates federal government's commitment to ending insecurity.
Right.
Once against politicizing attacks. Killings have devastated state's economy. That's according to the governor. And right there below that headline, we see the picture of the governor of Benue State, Hyacinth Alia. I don't know whether to call him Reverend Father. I almost say Reverend Father. But he's the governor right now. Yeah. I think he took a leave of absence to go into politics. So that's the governor of Benue State right there in a handshake with the National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, during the NSA's visit to the state on Tuesday, that's yesterday.
Right.
Away from that, moving to the top strip of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Attacks on Plateau communities, direct assault on humanity, rule of law. That's according to the NBA, the Nigerian Bar Association. Attacks on Plateau communities, direct assault on humanity, rule of law. Away from that, IMF projects 3% economic growth for Nigeria. IMF, International Monetary Fund, projects 3% economic growth for Nigeria. You find that on page 24. Away from that, 43,000 Nigerians to perform 2025 Hajj from states. Armed forces. 43,000 Nigerians to perform 2025 Hajj from states. Armed forces. You find details on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune. Moving on to other stories on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Senate replies Bakari. We are interested in results-driven engagements, not theatrics. Senate replies Bakari. We are interested in result-driven engagement, not theatrics. You find that story on page 9 of the Nigerian Tribune. I am not in supremacy battle with any monarch. That's according to Alaafin. I guess that should be Alaafin for you, of course. I am not in supremacy battle with any monarch. Yeah. That's according to
There's only one Alaafin ever.
Absolutely.
Everywhere in the world, one Alaafin for you.
Absolutely. And he's saying he's not in any supremacy battle.
You know, there have been conversations about who is superior between him and the Oni of Ife. And, and it's good that the Alaafin is saying, let's live and let's live. I'm not in supremacy battle. This tool speaks for itself.
But Femi, let's come down to it. Let's come to the facts now. Talking about the traditional rulers in the Southwest. I mean, historically, it has always been the Oni of Ife who has been regarded as the foremost traditional ruler in the Southwest.
Permit me to say we should not go into that conversation.
I know, but that has been the the opinion, the belief.
They are laughing. The other person involved in the matter said he is not interested in supremacy battle. That he stayed away.
Absolutely, absolutely. Away from that, moving on to other stories on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Ifon Ilobu, Erin Osun clashes. Monarchs hold peace meeting. Ifon Ilobu, Erin Osun clashes. Monarchs hold peace meeting. You find that on page 9.
I think that's a good one for the communities involved to call themselves, led by their rulers, to talk about the issues. If you ask me, I think possibly we are there right now for an eternal solution. If you ask me, because if people are involved and people are trying to mediate outsiders, well, please stop this. It's not good for you. And, it seems that the solution is neither here nor there. And after some time, the people who have been fighting force themselves to say, what is the matter? Guys, why are we fighting? I think nothing will be more permanent than when the warring parties are saying, you know what? Enough is enough. Than the intervention of an outsider. For me, I think it's a very good call. How many persons have been waiting for this to say, Kabiesi's, please talk, not just to your subject, talk to yourselves. I wish those communities all the best.
Absolutely. And thankfully, we didn't see reprisal attacks as anticipated. So thankfully, the whole thing has died down. And now we are talking about peace,
Yeah.
Which is a good move.
Peace conversation, yeah.
Absolutely. Away from that, 35 years after, Inyam reminisces on Okaku. 35 years after, Inyam reminisces on Okaku. Says Nigeria still suffering from master-servant relationship. Says Nigeria still suffering from master-servant relationship. The question is, who's the master and who's the servant here? We are Nigerians. Nigeria is an independent state. So who's the master and who's the servant? You might want to find out. Check out that story on page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune. And finally, from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, gunmen attack Kwara communities, kill 6. Gunmen attack Kwara communities, kill 6. Quite an unfortunate one right there. And that will be all from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. And that brings us to a conclusion of the newspaper review segment this morning. We'll take a short break, and when we return, the program continues. Stay with us.